For today's workshop, we are going to go through and basically, I think the promise was on the website, a good one, a fun one, is that if you are able to follow along today, then you should be able to create a AI doppelganger of yourself, a pixel perfect image generation machine. So we're going to basically train a model on your images, and then you're going to have access to an LLM, an actual image generation model that you'll be able to prompt it and give you access to photos in tons of different scenarios. And I think you can have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of practical examples, etc. And one of the ways I think is social media. We've already talked about in the chat some different ways that you can do. Just to give you a sense of what I've been creating. So I'm here live, but this is just an example of a photograph that I created this morning of me on a podcast. I just recorded a podcast with two different people. And so for promo materials that you can actually now have AI images where I don't need a cameraman in the studio or anything like that. And I would basically dare to say that these images today are very, very close to actual photographic quality images. I mean, if you look at even just the details of the hair, I even have some hair that's not combed in the back of my head. And so this is really good. Of course, you could do fun things. It's Christmas, so I was like, hey, what if I was like running down the aisles, Pixar style? You can have a lot of fun with this stuff. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to use Flux. Now, Flux is one of the new kids on the block. You might have heard of Midjourney. You might have heard of Ideogram. If you're using Bing or ChatGPT, you can trigger DALL-E, which is the model that OpenAI has. Meta has a version. If you are part of the Apple ecosystem, Apple Intelligence just launched, and they just had an announcement with OpenAI where they integrate ChatGPT. And through there's some image generation as well. Not that sophisticated. But right now, the new kid on the block that everyone seems to like is Flux. And that's because you're able to create photographic quality images like the ones I just showed you as samples. And so just thumbs up, thumbs down, or maybe scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, a real photograph, 0 being totally trash. The photos that I just shared, what would you rate these photos like in terms of quality of images? Seeing me on the screen and then seeing these images here, how close are they in today's world? What would you rate that 1 to 10? If you would just give it, yeah. So I think it's there, right? It's good enough. And I think the one advice I say in this stuff is that I don't think the intent is to pass them off as like your photo shoot, but they are, as Cindy says, scary good enough where that if you had an overlay and did text over image social media, or if you had carousels that you were able to publish where the actual photograph isn't the product that you're trying to peddle, right? You're not actually pushing that actual thing, but you're showing people some other image of you, and the other focus in terms of content is like this, right? So you have like this is a style. This is a style of carousel these days where you're using an image and you're doing text over images, that kind of stuff. I think it would pass for that right now. And here is the quote that we keep on repeating, and it just becomes more real every single day. And that is the AI that we're using today, right? If we clock it today, put it into a diary and take a snapshot, it is the worst AI that you will use in your lifetime, right? Today's the worst version of AI that you will use in your lifetime. I'm right outside of New York. This past 24 hours, I spent all day at the AI Summit in New York City at Jacob Javits Center, and going through the booths and going to the sessions. The marketplace is embracing AI like nothing else, and the products and all the features that are coming down the pike is just incredible. Yesterday, I was talking with a robot that had facial recognition, facial tracking. It had a hologram projected and followed me and had real life conversations. This stuff is just accelerating at a pace that I think we just all are feeling the velocity of. Now, on the upside, it gives us opportunities to do this kind of stuff with access to technology so that we can actually go off and actually take advantage of it for ministry in real practical ways that is also affordable and lower cost. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Flux. Now, Flux, just to let you know, is not like Ideogram or Leonardo or Midjourney, where there's a website and you can go to. It is a little bit kind of like how Midjourney used to be. And Midjourney was an esoteric model where it didn't have a website that you can interact with. You actually had to go through Discord, and through the Discord platform, you had to install it on a server, and then you interacted it with Discord, which is a little bit nerdy. Flux is a little bit nerdy that way in that it's open source. You can download it, install it on a machine, etc. But there's no like Flux website that you directly interact with it right now. But there are platforms out there that allow you to run Flux on their servers so that you don't need to do all the nerdy stuff on your side. So there's two that I want to share with you today that these platforms allow you to interact with these models without you having to invest in the hardware, in the software, in the installation, etc. And so the first one I want to share with you is called Fall.ai. And this is the one we'll use today to walk through and actually train. And the other one is called Replicate.com. And so all of these, there's a bunch of others that basically allow you to run these open source models on their servers and access them one at a time, and basically on an a la carte basis for pricing. So for example, here on Replicate, you can run all these models that generate images, generate text, speech, music. There's all these things that you can do. Same thing with Fall. Fall allows you to basically access all these installations of nerdy AI models that you can do. So if you wanted to actually go down a rabbit hole of just looking at these different models that they have that have access to different functionality, these are two great places to do it. There is a cost of using it, but it is cheap. It is really cheap. So for example, to train the AI model Flux on your set of images, and we suggest 15 to 20 images to start to get a pretty good high fidelity resemblance of you, typically costs between $2 and $4. So to train it once, to use the server power, it typically costs about $2 to $4. Fall has I believe, a flat fee pricing, and Replicate is on actual time spent using the server. But on both models, we've used it and trained it multiple times, and it comes out to about $2 to $4 for that. And then creating the images on its own after that, again, has a cost to it, and it's not that great either, because on Flux for Fall, for example, $1 in cost is about 30 images. So you can run it about 30 times for $1. Basically, I think the conversion is it's like 3.5 cents per megapixel, and to generate, say, 4 images might take 8 seconds, 9 seconds. So it charges you on that basis, and so as you can see, it's pretty affordable in terms of that cost. I think the upside is it's not subscription based. So if you don't use it for a while, you're not going to be charged. If you need it for a lot of things, you'll be charged, but it's on a use basis. So to me, it's a very positive thing. And I think, again, there's different models, and the cost of these models are going down day by day. So what we're going to do is prep a bunch of photos of yourself. Who here, if you maybe put into chat, has brought, I don't know if you've seen the marketing materials, who has a bunch of photos that you've brought with you? Does anyone have 15, a dozen or so or more photos that you have with you? Cindy does. Russ does. Absolutely. This is great. This is great. So then what we'll do is we'll work it together so that you can actually hopefully build your own. Yeah, Paul, I was selected on it. So just to let you know, those images that I was created, that I just showed you as samples, were created with not new photo shoots. I literally just went through my camera roll and just happened to pick whatever, photos that isolated myself in, and I picked about 15 of them, and that was good. So I'm going to do a whole new set today so that we just walk through it together. So we're going to go to fall.ai. You can also follow along at Replicate. It's pretty much very similar, but basically you're going to click on Get Started, and either you have a GitHub or you have a single sign-on. GitHub is a free, free account that you can set up with them. And once you set up the account there, it authenticates you and puts you into Fall. Okay? And so this is the starting point so that we can all basically train the model together. And then you're going to search for the Fall trainer. If you search for the Flux LoRa Portrait Trainer, this is the page that's going to come up. The Flux LoRa Portrait Trainer. So let me just show you how to do that. Actually, you know what we should do before that is we should show you how to actually prep the photos. But basically, there's a search for different models. So you can see by the numbers, there's tons of different AI models that you can do. And so we're going to do text-to-image models and training. And you'll see that there's the Flux LoRa fast training model. There's another one specifically for portraits. If you wanted to just do headshots, either one works well. But this is the one we'll use. The portrait trainer we'll get started with this one. Okay, so you'll see seems a little bit overwhelming and nerdy, but there isn't that much to do, and I'm just going to walk you through this. So the first area that we need to pay attention to, and this is again the same thing on Replicate, is once you find the LoRa trainer interface, there's an input area. This is where you need to actually give the model actual new content to train it additionally so that it can incorporate it into its image generation model. And so here, there's two ways of doing that. You can add images separately. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can add, dozens and dozens of images, or you can put them all into a zip file and upload that together, which is the actual method we'll use today. But you could actually, add them individually. So if you click on Add Images, you go to your hard drive and ask you to upload them one by one. That just takes a while, or you can do a zip file. So in order to do that, what we need to do first is we need to find the photos on our hard drive, right? And we need to actually prep the images. And I think there's specific guidelines that I've found helpful after training this several times in different people to be able to show you what is the optimized types of photos that you're going to need so that you get the best output, right? So to ensure that the AI focuses on the right thing, it's picking up and isolating your face and you, not other things in photos. There's a bunch of best practices that I've come up with that I wanted to share with you today, if that's okay. So there's about, actually, is there 10? There's 9 of them, I think. So the first one is you want decent quality resolution photos, right? Because AI is looking at the details of your facial structure, even your wrinkles, your dimples, all that kind of stuff, your hair. So you want some decent quality resolution. I think that is the first step that you want to do. Whoops, where'd it go? So the resolution is important. You want it to be in focus, right? Again, it is training itself to identify you and then how to replicate your image. So you need to be in focus. And the third one is lighting. These seem to be intuitive, but if you're especially scrolling through your camera roll with selfies, and I've done this over the shoulder watching some other people, they tend not to pick all 3 of these, the trifecta all the time. So this is just over communicating that you will get better results if you pay attention to this type of stuff. The second one is that you want to provide a variety of angles, right? So AI has done a really good job of simulation of 3D models based on flat images. But again, you want to help the image generation model as much as possible. So things that are straight on, really good. Things that have a profile view, three-quarter angles, maybe so not that flattering, bottom up from the chin, exposing your double chin or my double chin, from above, etc. You want to provide a variety of angles. Just again, think of this AI scanning and trying to find how to confidently recreate your image based on any scenario that you're going to prompt it in the future, right? So we all have straight on photos. There's selfie photos and portrait photos, etc. But many times we don't have that many that are to the side, different angles. So this is where take the time to take some of those extra photos. And so this is just a couple examples on my side. So there's one me speaking on stage. Another one, I actually was taking, someone was taking my picture someplace, and I just said, hey, can you just take one more? And I looked off onto the side. It's almost like the life of an Instagram influencer. You see that a lot on people's Instagram feeds. And the third one, same thing, as if I was talking to somebody and there's a second camera angle shot. You want to be able to give those details. The third best practice is you want to use a range of expressions because, again, you're probably going to want to prompt it to say, hey, serious, happy, joyful, sad, smiling, laughing, right? You want to be able to give the AI as much details as possible in doing that. Otherwise, it's going to approximate it based on everything that it knows about everybody else it has in the model. But you want it to be pixel perfect to you, right? So you want natural, relaxed expressions, but you want a variety of other emotions as well. I think emotions is the key word. If you're able to trigger some emotions, you should be able to help the model give much better dynamic range of the portraits and the photos that comes out. There was one model where we trained it, and it happened to be that user just had one expression every single time. It was a little bit of a pouty face, and no matter what, that pouty face came out in the training, as you can imagine. And so that range of expressions is really important. Next one is consistent backgrounds. So you want to have as little as possible in terms of distractions when you provide the materials to the AI, right? So plain backgrounds are great, simple, uncluttered things. You want to think of the LoRa trainer almost as like a puppy dog. It gets distracted very easily. It will get fixated on things in the photo that you don't intend it to if you give it the chance. So don't give it shiny objects from its point of view of what am I trying to focus on. So doing something like this where it's a neutral colored background is the best. You can definitely upload other types of photos where you're isolated, where you're clearly the subject. But for example, you don't want someone else in it. This is where you want to, there's value in having those photos where you cut off the boyfriend or girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, that type of thing. You don't want other people in the photo. You want yourself. And again, try to minimize the distractions so that the AI is going to focus on you as the subject explicitly. The next one is clothing and style. So there was a set that I did where I tend to, in fact, you know what? I'm wearing a quarter zip, right? This is called a quarter zip. And so I've become self-aware that I wear quarter zips a lot. And the first set that I ever trained one of these Flux LoRa's, I had 100% of the photos were wearing quarter zips of some sort. And then every single photo coming out of that, whenever I prompted it, had quarter zips. Even if I said I wanted a suit, like a business casual, it turned a quarter zip into a suit because I gave it 100% pattern recognition of this is what I wear, right? So you want to give some variety there so that you actually are able to, again, it's pattern recognition, and you want to train the AI what are the types of clothes that you want. Now, you do have flexibility in prompting in different ways, and even in that first case, we were able to get out of that, confinement or constraints of the clothing. But that's the ideal scenario. The one tip I have here is avoiding logos, if possible, because sometimes it picks up on those and replicates them or distorts them as you go through. So you might have, say, a Nike logo on all of your clothing or a lot of your clothing, and then later it turns into some other type of shape or something like that. Now, this is with most AI content generation. You don't necessarily want to assume or rely on whatever you get and don't get upset and then ship it and just print it and publish it. You probably want some post-processing. So when that happens, a lot of times we'll put it into Illustrator, Photoshop, or even Canva with its AI tools to remove the logo that's been distorted or the text or something that it doesn't seem right, and use those types of AI tools to fix it post and then be able to use it properly afterwards. So that's just one thing that we found through our experience, especially larger logos, because again, when it's assembling the image, it's starting to fixate on artifacts that it sees as an independent artifact of the photo that it should remember. And so then it starts to get confused. The next one is context specific. So again, variety is the key word here today. You wanted to give different scenarios of how you are going to be seen. So headshots up close are great, mid-length shots, full body shots. If you're not going to ever use full body shots, then don't worry about it. But you wanted to give an approximation of your body and how it poses, or different stances that you might be using, and so that you can use it in the future. So a lot of times we'll see only selfie photos in your camera roll, for example, and this is one of the limitations that we've seen. And many people don't have full body shots. And so again, this is where you could just ask a friend or use the timer on your phone for the camera and just go out and about and take those shots. It's just one of those things that I think it's good over time to collect these so that you can train even future models and update them later, so that whenever you're out and about, if you have the chance and you feel like you have a decent clothing on, dress, then you take some more photos. And again, different angles, different perspectives, things like that. Not just the selfie, not just different wide angle. Again, different context in terms of how you're posing is really important. Okay, this is really important because the AI doesn't know if it's a filter or not. When it sees filtered images, it just assumes that style is something that needs to actually pick up. So one of the great things about Flux LoRa's is that you can actually train it not on a person or object, but you can also train it on like a genre or style. So if there's a specific style of image or photography, you can actually train it on that versus the actual image. In this use case, we're training it on ourself, which is an object. And so you want to avoid using those filters. Just as a side note, this could be used as taking a product, right? You can actually take an actual product, take different photos in different areas and different lighting, different contexts, and all of a sudden now you don't need a product photographer anymore with a studio. You can actually then prompt your product, say it's a book, say it's I don't know, any physical product. You now can do that and put it into any context and create product photos of that, which is pretty amazing. So no beauty filters, no Instagram or TikTok filters. You want raw photos, and so hashtag no filter. Last one is different environments: church stage, your office, at a cafe, working at a desk. Those are the types of things that you want to see. So even here you can see I was, I had some photos of me skiing, talking on a stage, in a library with a business casual suit, podcasting, right? So what are the different activities that you predictively might think that you're going to use this Flux LoRa for? And those are the types of things that would be helpful for you. Okay. Last one is quantity. I think that you can probably get away with a dozen photos, but you probably want to give it a little bit more once you start to think through all these use cases. You could certainly give it more. The example I'm going to show you today, it's definitely more than that. So just to give you an idea, this is the folder of things that I'm using today. So we have, I think, over 40 images that we're using right now. So I want you to just feel comfortable, not necessarily nerding out on precision of how many images you collect, but rather try to find enough photos that give the predictive engine that's analyzing you and your images enough data, enough diversity so that it can actually work with it going forward. You will be surprised, however, if you're limited by the number of photos you have now, that it will do a great job, even with a handful of photos. So if you came today in this chat and said, yes, I have photos, yes, I have photos, and after listening to these best practices that you don't have enough, don't worry about it. I would try to just see what happens with the set that you have, because you can always go back and train again. And the cost isn't that much, right? It's literally $2 to $3 to get started. And so 15 to 20 photos is probably the easy sweet spot. You can actually go higher. And here's just another tip that we've learned. Try to avoid nearly identical images. So if you have photos from the same photo shoot or the same area, if they're basically just one or two angles differently, don't include them. You don't want it to be obsessive over that. So here's, again, just a glimpse of the photo folder that I've actually created in order to train my Flux LoRa. And as you can see, there's different angles approached head on to the side, full body shots, me wearing hats of different styles, different contexts, etc. This is the type of thing that you want to do. So once you get that ready, you're going to want to prep it to either put into Replicate or Fall. And the only other tip that I have here is that you want to be able to help the AI engine with your files by giving it file names that are consistent and that also tell it what it is. So here, it's reading, I tagged it in my file names, if you can read this, is photo of AI Kenny Jang, and then it just has file numbers. If you're on a Mac like I am, this function is really easy to do. You can take, if these are all random files, you just have to highlight all of them, and then you left click, and you can use the rename feature. And under rename feature, you can actually, instead of find and replace, you could use the format feature. And under the format of the name, you can do name and a counter. So you're gonna, use the same file name for all of them, but then there are duplicates if they're all the same file name. So you want to use a counter so that it's Kenny Jang 1, Kenny Jang 2, that kind of thing. And so name and counter, and in the custom formats, that's where you want to do photo and underscore of underscore, and then whatever the trigger word you're going to use for you. So you need to create a trigger word that whenever you prompt, that when you use that keyword, it's going to know to invoke this trained model. So I called it AI Kenny Jang. If you called it AI Kenny, or whatever it is, you want to make it unique, not generic. And so usually your name is enough. You could use any keyword. You can be fa la 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 la, right? So something that's unique that you're going to remember, that whenever you go back and prompt to invoke this actual cloning, this doppelganger, you're going to use this keyword. And so here I'm using AI Kenny. And then there's a thing that says where you're going to number it. Where's the counter? I'm going to do it after the name. And the number starts with whatever. You can start with 10, 15, 20, whatever. I started with number 1. And it gives you an example underneath here. It says photo underscore of underscore AI Kenny 00001.jpg. And so once you do that, you're going to rename everything. And as you can see that all these files, all of a sudden in my file folder, can you see this? It says photo of AI Kenny, and then the counter, right? So it just goes, it counts up, 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 up. And so it goes all the way down, and I have 49 images here. Does that make sense? I'll pause there. Any questions in terms of renaming the photos that you collect? Again, you don't need to do that bulk photo renaming. If you only have a dozen photos, you probably could do it manually. But if you have a Mac, that's just a shortcut trick that we've used pretty quickly to do that administratively. Any questions at this point of what type of photos you want to collect and then how to rename them? Put it in the chat if you have any questions. Or if you're good to go, just say, hey, good to go. Let's see how everyone's doing here. Nate says good to go. Ross is good to go. Good to go, good to go. Okay, so the next thing is, if you recall, when we went into the model, right, you had two different ways that you could actually upload your file to the thing, right? So one way was to add the images manually. Another one is to pick a zip file, right? And so what I'm going to do is, because I have so many images, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to just create a zip file of that thing. So they were all in this folder, right? And I'm going to rename it now because I renamed the file. So I'm going to say photos of AI Kenny. All right, so this is my 48 images. And then again, in a Mac, they make it easy. You just left click, and then you can compress that folder name. So if you press and compress, all of a sudden, a zip folder shows up. Let me just clean up this folder and get rid of some stuff so everybody can see what I'm doing. Right? So you have the original original photo, and then now you have a zip file. Okay? So all you have to do is put that, if you use, there's many other utilities out there that allows you to compress and create zip folders, zip files, but that's just an easy way to do. And if you're ready, just tell me ready in the chat and we'll keep on moving. And in the meantime, just let me show you, as I'm waiting for everyone to catch up. Here was a fun little photo, a little cartoon character, Pixar style, of me holding a cup of coffee that I made right before while people were entering into the chat. So you can see it's not just sort of photographic stuff. This kind of stuff is cute. Again, I would use this on social. I would use this on social with a quote, or put something, put something in the description along with it. There's tons of stuff that you can do. Okay. Seems like everyone is ready to go. And so we'll push on. So we're going to go back to our, to fall, right? So we're going to get ready. And again, we're back at this portrait trainer, Flux Lower portrait trainer. There's the other one as well. There's the fast trainer. They both work the same. So we're going to pick our zip folder, and I'm going to go in and find that zip file, and I'm going to upload that zip file. Again, you could add the images manually if you wanted to. Now, you'll see this field here is the trigger phrase. What do you want to put it? So what are you going to do? So I'm going to create AI Kenny. You can do anything that you want, but make sure that's unique, right? You want it something that's unique, that the system itself, because you're on a big platform, is not going to be able to invoke by other things. You will see that there's all these other settings out there. If you click on more, usually depending on the platform they use, there's a number of steps that it takes. 2500 is the default, and for most projects, we have not had to move that at all. All this stuff you can actually leave, and so that's not a problem, right? So you wanna basically make sure you have a unique trigger phrase, AI Kenny, and then, I'm gonna say I'm going to change mine, AI Flux Kenny. And so I'm going to hit start. And again, you'll see here, the cost is identified here, that it's 0.24 cents per step. 0.24 cents per step. And we actually calculated 2,500 steps here. So do you understand, like, the cost here is really small, right? And so we're going to click start. And what you'll see is that this model is going to continue to, what do you call it? It's going to work until it gets completed. And at some point, it's going to say completed. As you can see, it's in progress right now. And that takes about 10 to 15 minutes. About 10 to 15 minutes. And when it's done, you're going to be able to use that run inference. Basically, that's your model. So you're going to be ready to run your model. Okay? And so we're going to let that go. Now, I've trained something previously beforehand. So I ran something, same exact model set right beforehand. So this is kind of like one of those cooking shows where it's like you put it in the oven, and then magically there's another oven, and you pull out the cookies and show you how it's done. And so this is the second oven. So I literally took the same zip folder of files, put it into Flux LoRa Trainer, and it finished the whole training. And this is now what I have. So once you run that run inference, you're going to have your own text-to-image model, and this is what it looks like. Very simple. Here's a prompt box, and then you're going to be able to run your LoRa's here. And your prompts are very simple. All you need to do is include your keyword. So the original one that I did for today, it was called AI Kenny Jang. Right? So the one we just did is AI Flux Kenny. And so all I did was I wrote happy AI Kenny Jang. So this invokes that trained LoRa. And it says, okay, now portray him as happy, a Pixar cartoon style in a toy store aisle. And then you'll see that this is what it's come out with. Each one of these, you can download them specifically, or you can open up into a larger file, and you can look at it, and you can examine it, etc., and choose to download. Or you can go back, right? You can say cartoon style in Times Square, New York City, right? You could do whatever you want to modify and iterate on this. Now, there are some settings that I would love to share with you. So the first one that's important, right? So there's additional settings. You open up the additional settings. Is the aspect ratio. So what is the aspect ratio of the photograph you want? So I did 16:9, so a horizontal photo. If you wanted to do, like a story or a reel type of format, a vertical photo, you can do vertical, or you can create your own custom one. Right? You can create your own, whatever you want. So let's do portrait. And then the other one down here is what image format do you want? Since it's an image, PNG or JPEG. I usually put JPEG. And then this is the other one. So it is defaulted to one number of image that it generates, and you could do that as a test to save money. But typically, because it's so cheap and the cost will go cheaper and cheaper, I just max it out at 4. So that means every single time you run a prompt, you get 4 options to choose from. If we actually just chose 1, or if we just chose 2, let's just do 2. And let's run this for 2. And you'll see when it comes out that only 2 instances come out. One looks like me and one doesn't, right? And so this is why I would choose to do 4 and run all 4. This is transparent here for fall. is that my last request took 5.53 seconds of server time. Which one do you like? A, B, C, or D? Let's vote. Which is the best Pixar Kenny in Times Square? A, B, C, or D? I got a D here, and I got a B here. Yeah, D kind of looks like me. I'm surprised here. This definitely is a Pixar style. D and B, both of them are winners. So what I'm going to do is I'll take this, and then I'm going to be able to download this and use this myself. So I'll click on it. I'll save the image. I already have a folder called AI Kenny Photos. I'll click there, and then I'll name it, right? So Kenny Pixar Times Square, right? And now I can use that in the future. So this is a great thing. So now let's see. Without Pixar cartoon style, let's see. Just say in Times Square, and let's see what happens without the cartoon. That last one took 8 seconds. This one took 9.85 seconds. It cost me 3.5 cents per megapixel. Basically, $1 of this model runs about 29 times. So 29 times the 4 outputs you get to use for $1. And so, yeah, I like these. This kind of is scary, right? Like how realistic this is. Again, look at this. Because of the photos, it even has that wisp of hair. So it's not like totally perfect. This is something I think, again, is just getting better and better and better. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Yeah, Cindy says very, very scary. And you can do it in July, right? And then let's change portrait to landscape and see what happens. Yeah, so in July comes out very different, right? And again, I would say all of these are pretty darn wow, like they're pretty good. Now, we did not prompt specifics of clothing or wide angle shot or anything like that. You can change the prompts to do different things. But I would say like this one is pretty real, right? Yeah, A and B seems to have multiple versions of D. Yes. So that's something that I think is going to be, yeah, look at this. I've got Kenny's in the background. Kenny's and Kenny's. Right? And so what would I do with that? I would take this image and duplicate AI Kenny, right? And what I would do is just, this is off the cuff, right? So what I would do is I would go create a design in Canva. I would upload the file. You go to your desktop, find the AI duplicate Kenny, using a new design, custom size, create a new design. And so you click on edit, and there's the Magic Studio here with all the AI things. And so you could either do magic edit or erase, right? And so we could do magic erase. And if you want to erase this guy, bye, Kenny. I could have made the brush a larger size, right? And then you can erase, and let's see what happens. Again, Canva's things are not that great. Let's go back. let's use the click model. So if you use the click model, it isolates things and lets you actually select images. It lassos things, and let's see how it works. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, it's okay. It's not the best. Adobe tools are much better at this kind of generative fill, right? Yeah. So again, if this was something where we did text over image, right? A great quote by Kenny sharing life wisdom galore. Right. I think this in particular is the real use case of this type of image generation. Is that, look, you could do this type of thing where effects of the photo. Let's do that. Make it yellow, and then just take this, edit the backgrounds, and then you can make this duotone, right? I mean, there's tons of stuff you can do, but at this point, when you're looking at an image like this, those erased images and those blurs are pretty much something that no one's going to notice. I don't think so. I think that's just a different one. We've got Paul in the Zoom chat. Paul, could you come on camera? Let's see Paul here. Where are you, Paul? Can you come on camera? Paul just created this himself. If you know Paul.
Yep, here I am.
There you are. This is pretty realistic, Paul. So what do you think? Is this the best tool that you've used in terms of image generation for yourself?
Yeah, actually what's funny is my 18-year-old daughter, who's a senior in high school, she doesn't want to go through the process of doing senior pictures, so I'm just going to do this. Problem solved.
Yeah,
you know?
everybody here, like while we're talking, look at Paul's video in Zoom, and I spotlighted him, so hopefully you'll see him here. So, right, so this is Paul. This is real Paul, right? And so when we're looking at his clone's video, his doppelganger, scale of 1 to 10, put it into the chat. What do you think of Paul's results here? How good is this?
This is really good.
And is there anybody else that has followed along? I would just love to see your responses. I think this is, again, yeah, as Nate said, pretty good. Cindy says 10, right? Tiffany says 10. Whoa, that's pretty good, realistic. If you know Paul like I do, and I've seen and been with Paul in person, I would not, honestly, this photo right here, I would not second guess this photo. So this allows you to do so many things in that capacity. So yes, hopefully this is something that you guys see as a real potential to do in so many different use cases out there. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave it there. As you know, as we go through some Q&A, let me just share with you some other samples that I've created in the nick of time. Saint Nick, see what I did there? Nick of time. You're able to honestly be able to create things that I think are commercially ready to use in many different use cases. Again, newsletters, social media, etc. I think that's just, yeah. I think this is something that I think everyone else out there is going to start to use in the next year or so. And this is just a jump ahead on that model. So while you formulate your own questions here, I'm going to jump to Replicate. So Replicate is another model. It is, I think, a little bit cheaper than Fall. I'll just put it out there. It is a little bit cheaper than fall. Fall tends to be easier to train, but the training, the models is pretty much the same. But I created this thing called Kenny Jang Photos here. Here, let me go back. And some of those photos that you saw are, yeah, the previous models, right? So this is what we've done in the past. More predictions. There's a whole history, right, that I can show you. But let me just go to the model. Let's produce something. So why don't we just do that same one? So we're going to use the same prompt, right? And then we go to Flux LoRa. Now, the difference here is the menu options here, right? So this is my model, Kenny Jang Photos. And it says the trigger word for this model is Kenny Jang, so not AI Kenny Jang. So Kenny Jang in Times Square in New York City in July, holding up a coffee cup to the sun, right? And then aspect ratio is here as a drop down. I like 16 by 9 wide, but lately I've been just doing even wider shots, 21 by 9. Facebook timeline, your cover image does well with that type of thing. You don't need to worry about all this stuff here. The number of outputs is the same, so you can actually increase this to 4 outputs. And then the other one is what format file. You should not be concerned with WebP, but sometimes some programs where you upload it doesn't work, and so I again default to JPEG. And so you don't really need to worry about that. You can start to do some advanced stuff with this, though you really don't need to. And then we click Run. What I love about this is that it just shows you the iterations that it's going through, and so it's showing you what's going on behind the scenes. You know, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second, that type of thing. And then it will come out with the 4 outputs here. And again, this is the same exact AI model. So the actual differences in output shouldn't be that far off. So there's the coffee cup. Why don't we remove this and run it again? But do you see the fidelity of the photographs again is just amazing. I do think these photo models will even get better in the next 6 months. So I think that once you start to train these things, these models are going to get better, just because all of the platforms continue to iterate in terms of how good they get. So, for example, OpenAI this week announced Sora, Sora.com for all those ChatGPT users, and it allows you to basically do videos, motion picture videos like that. Okay. Oh, why am I not in this photo? I'm wondering why I'm not here. This is what happens with AI models once in a while. I don't know why it wasn't listening to me. Okay, questions while we're waiting for this. Is there any other questions as we go? Because I think, hopefully some of you have gotten to the actual part like Paul has where you now have a trained model. There you go. When the training is done, where do you go to see the images? So the images are here. If you go back to the history, into the main, you will see they're called predictions. So then you can actually click on these and go back and see your previous images. I like this one. This is pretty realistic too. Yeah. How do you ensure you show up in the output? Mine are without me, even when I use my code word for the prompt. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is honestly, today right here was the first time that I've not shown up. I think you need to play with your prompts, Cindy, if you wanted to be more explicit of who what you're doing in the thing. So, like I did here, I added photo of Kenny Jang, and then I had the actual verb. I was standing where in Times Square in New York City. Yes. If you're on fall, correct. Once you're training, then there's a button to the training page. Nate, how you doing? Russ, how you doing? How have you guys? Ophelia, how you doing? Joey, have you guys been able to train your own things? Let me know how you guys are feeling about this. Is this something that you are comfortable with at this point? Have you generated anything that you feel is like on par with photography?
I've trained, but I can't see. I don't. It's like I'm not finding in foul.
Um, Let me see where you're. So you're in fall and you actually trained. Did the photos come up?
No.
Oh, so um, there you go, Cindy. Cindy just shared a photo of herself. We don't see you on camera, but I'm assuming that's a good picture of you or that you're happy with it. It is photoreal. Yeah, that's you. Smiley and happy. It's the same smiley face. Nate's trying to put good pictures of yourself on the phone. That is a very common reaction where you realize I don't really take that many selfies, right? Or I don't have that many good photos. But again, I think the good news, Nate, is that it doesn't take that many photos. And so the job for you right now is today, tomorrow, this weekend. Can you just ask some people to take photos of you? And again, it doesn't need to be crazy diverse, right? It could just be around your house. Can you find some blank walls, even outside or something like that, to get you going? And again, the risk is very low, right? You can train it on, say, just go around the house and get 15, 20 photos now. One in each room in different poses, sitting at a desk, standing up, outside, in the driveway, that kind of thing. And see how it goes, because worst case scenario, you can scrap it and totally train it again, but the cost is really not that much. The other thing that I forgot to talk about, honestly, is adding money to your balance. So that might be part of the issue for anyone. And so let me go back here. So if you go into fall, when you see my balance here, and if you want to add to the balance, you can go into and click the plus sign, and then you can add credits, and this is by credit card. So you can $10, $20, $50, whatever. $10 is the minimum. So you just click buy, and then it's going to ask you. Let me log out of this. It's going to ask you for your credit card information. You check out, and then it gives you a balance. It tops it up, etc. Same thing on what is Replicate. Replicate, you can go. I believe it's under account settings, under billing, and then. Again, I've done a ton of stuff, and my usage is 60 cents. Again, I personally think Replicate is cheaper to use on a regular basis, but fall is probably where you want to test it out because the training is much easier there. So you can see that in October I used $9.93. November I used $2.28. In December so far I used 60 cents. And there's, there's, what does it tell you? I don't even know. 59 images. Yeah. So this is where you would top up your account. My hair is exactly the color and my skin color, Cindy. Yes. Yeah, I think this is fantastic, right? You're seeing people immediately be able to use this stuff, I think, out of the gate. Now, I don't know how you want to use this, but you probably can change the, what do you call it, the dimensions to be able to get different stuff. Don't forget, you can put it into Canva and expand the canvas. So even with this, Cindy, this is a vertical image. You can put it into Canva and then ask it to fill in and imagine what's on the right side of this image and the left side of this image if you need it to go horizontal instead of redoing it. Yep, Photoshop does this very well. Canva is just a very accessible, easy to use solution for everybody. So there you have it. Hopefully you've got a handle on it. I'll stick around just for a little bit for more questions. We will have a recording of this. The other thing that we are creating is a step-by-step screenshot guide for both Fall and for Replicate to train it, but you guys know how to do it. It's not that hard. I would just make sure to pay attention to those 9 best practices of when you are collecting your own images. Those things will actually increase the fidelity and the accuracy of the outputs that you get. And yeah, hopefully this is useful to you. And if you have any questions, let me know. Next month, just administratively, just some housekeeping. Next month, we're going to do a deep dive in the topic of ethics and copyright. This is very important, especially to image generation as well as text generation. So we're going to tackle that with Rob Lauder. And on top of that, if you wanted to upgrade to the AI for Church Leaders membership, there's a discount available because you've come today. You're going to get that offer. I think you got it when you logged in, but also you're going to get an email with those details. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best places to get up to speed. Within that membership, you get access to 2 courses that we just put in recently. One is ChatGPT for churches. ChatGPT4churches.com is an independent course, but that's included in the membership. Second one is repurposeyoursermon.com. So we went through and I have a worldview of the 10 or so different, I think there's 12, 10 or so different things that should be on every single sermon archive page, and all the different form factors you can take your long form content and use AI tools to repurpose for other types of content out there. And so, hopefully these tools and resources are helpful for you. I would love to know your feedback in terms of what you got out of this today. How are you going to use it? Would you do me a favor when you have some outputs, push it into and post it into our AI for Church Leaders Facebook group and reference this, because we're making this a course that's available afterwards as well. So for example, Paul and Cindy, if you would just put it into the group and say, hey, I just walked through the workshop. We trained our own model. Here's an example or 2. And suggest that everyone else goes through this step-by-step training. That would be useful and helpful to us. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you here in the Facebook group and next month on AIforChurchLeaders.com.